Good afternoon, students. Welcome to MAN 231, better known as marketing. Today we'll be discussing chapter number 1, an overview of marketing. The chapter outline will mainly focus on the most key components of this chapter. We will first look at the definition of marketing. We'll continue with the marketing management philosophies, where we'll be unpacking the theoretical knowledge and the different debates regarding how management and marketing goes hand in hand with one another. We'll then move on to the marketing process, a common process that we are all familiar, and we'll use this as a platform to go on to chapter number 2. If we look at the remaining content of this chapter, we'll be unpacking how can a firm use marketing to strengthen their role within the marketing industry, but also look at the critics that comes with the marketing and with the private sector. And then we'll be ending off on the most key component of this whole chapter. Why do you need to study marketing? So let's begin with the most basic concept of all, marketing. The definition can be found in your textbook. You can quickly do a quick Google search. You can even go onto YouTube and you will find tons and tons of different marketing definitions. However, it all boils down to the same key components. Marketing is just an activity where you need to communicate. There's certain creations that take place, and then there's also some form of process taking place. For example, the concept of exchange, where there's a buyer versus a seller, there's a society, there's certain people impacting the marketing environment. And if you can look at the picture below at the bottom of the screen, you will see that marketing has tons and tons of different variables and different components. However, the key component of marketing is that there's a customer, a client, and there's a need and a demand for your product or service. So what is marketing? The simple question that's on all of our so-called minds at the moment. Very important to note that marketing can be divided into two key components, better known as a philosophy, the attitude component, and then the second component, which is the activity used to implement the philosophy. Now we'll get to this in the near future in the 4 or 5 slides that's to come. So customer satisfaction is a very important role, and I'm sure if we could have an opportunity for you to give me an input on customer satisfaction, if it's a positive experience or negative experience, I'm sure as a second year student you could give me tons and tons of real life examples of where you were a happy customer and then also where you could be a dissatisfied customer. But it's very important to understand that the customer within the private sector, and especially within the marketing industry, the customer always comes first. You need to know what is the customer is expecting of your product or your service, and then also to over deliver, meaning there's a certain standard that the customer is looking for when he or she buys a certain product. And then also as a company, as a service organization, you need to over deliver, meaning you go that little bit extra just to keep your customer happy. The reason why you can have 500 happy customers that will go on give you a positive review of your small business. This could be a medium-sized business or even a big international corporate industry, or it could just be one unsatisfied customer going onto the social media platforms and giving you a bad review. So customer satisfaction is vital to the component of success in today's time and era. So let's look at the disconfirmation paradigm. Now I'm sure when you saw this diagram in front of you, you obviously thought maybe you're in the wrong class. This is not a quantitative module, this is marketing. But let's just break it down in the nuts and the bolts of what's in front of us. To your left hand side there's a column performance, and then to your right hand side expectation. Very important that the performance always exceeds the customer's expectation. And then if we go down to the left hand side of performance, you will see a positive confirmation. And then also to your far right hand side, if you look at the column for expectation, there's a negative confirmation. Very important that when you do customer satisfaction and it becomes your focus of your business, then you need to make sure that your performance is in line with one another. For example, in industry, you will normally find the term gaming. This is not your Xbox or your PC, ladies and gentlemen. This is the real world gaming. So what they will do is they will tell the customer, we can give you 500 products at the X amount per item. However, at the end of the day, you cannot perform on the promise that you made to your customer. So the customer is unhappy, they didn't receive their so-called order on time, and nor did you deliver on the quantity of the product that you said you will be delivering, meaning it will be a negative, a dissatisfied customer at the end of the day. So let's use the next slide to make us more experts on the so-called topic of customer satisfaction. So if you want to measure if your customer is happy or sad after a service have been delivered or after they purchased a certain product, there's different tools and methods that we can use to bring these so-called questions to life. The very first question that you can ask for the customer, are you happy with the money that you spend? Indirectly, you're asking your customer, are they really interested in coming back in the near future to buy the same product or to make use of the same service? Then, if the answer is yes, you can now develop a certain questionnaire. At the bottom of the slideshow, you will see a customer satisfaction so-called scale, where the customer rates your service, your product. If it was excellent, then they'll tick the box for excellent. If it was very good, they'll just simply tick the box for very good. Or worst case scenario, they'll just tick the box of being average. Now, ladies and gentlemen, you need to collect this information in various forms. This could be a formal survey, this could be a questionnaire, this could be a so-called dialogue between two customers where they give you a collective view of what's right, what's wrong. But most importantly, you need to collect the information about what are the customer's needs. And based upon their needs and their so-called dissatisfied components within your service delivery or with your product, you can then start to turn this negative into a positive, meaning whatever you did wrong according to the customer, you could now in the near future rectify the mistake and turn this so-called bad experience into maybe 5 or 10 positive experience, depending on how many customers you have impact on. Now, remember in the beginning of chapter 1 outline, we said that we will be discussing different philosophies of management. And here's our very first philosophy, Herzberg 2-factor model for customer satisfaction. Very, very important that we as a university would like to have a positive impact on your life, but also to have positive feedback when it comes to students and the way that we treat our students. So hoping to your right hand side, you will be currently in the smiley face box. If not, you could be in the unfriendly, unhappy box on your left hand side, meaning you were unfriendly smiley. So let's start to unpack what does this theory speak about and how is this relevant towards marketing. So let's look at your left hand side, the prerequisite. What do we need to have in place so that we can contribute to a dissatisfied customer? Meaning, let's take a real practical life example. You stood in an extremely long line for registration. Some of you might be still in the line as I speak now, or you could be one of those fortunate customers that's already done registering for your modules for this whole year and you're a happy customer. But currently there are a few unfriendly customers on campus, meaning they are dissatisfied, meaning they stood in a line for 200 minutes this whole week just to get the simple answer of asking a question, should they be in this line or not? Or it could be something more pressing, as there was no parking on campus, hence you are dissatisfied. So very important, there are certain components that will contribute to the success of a customer satisfaction level. This could be positive or negative, and it's very important as a marketing specialist that you need to control these factors. And let's look at the happy smiley face, the satisfiers, meaning these so-called customers are happy. They are satisfied and even a little bit more than just satisfied, meaning they'll definitely come back to your customer clientele based network. They'll always come back for more. They'll always recommend you to a friend or family member to make use of. Very important that you will always have happy customers and dissatisfied customers. But when you have unhappy customers, or better known as dissatisfied customers, you need to identify the source as why they are really unhappy. So the hygiene and the satisfiers, so-called two components, come into play. So if we break it down, you will see I've highlighted them in isolation. So if you look at the hygiene factors, this could be the working conditions, this could be personal life, and then at the bottom of this list you will see money, status, and security. Now, ladies and gentlemen, these so-called factors of the hygiene are the most pressing that I've just highlighted. When it comes to your personal life, each and every one of us will have a different background. We will have different stories to tell, and just as a simple commute to University of the Western Cape will be different for each and every one of us. You could be traveling by shuttle, lift club, you could be traveling from somewhere where you live off campus via train, Uber, Shoelace Express, anything, any method you could commute to UWC. But very importantly, ladies and gentlemen, it will be unique to every one of us. Some of us could get a taxi in the first 2 minutes of just standing there, or you could even wait 5 hours in a queue in your personal vehicle just to get onto campus, and then also to struggle for parking. So just know that personal life has a huge impact when it speaks to the hygiene factors. But also then, if we look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs, where we look at money, status, and security, Maslow's hierarchy of needs speak to all of them. And when certain amount of status have been achieved in your personal life, that normally goes hand in hand with the X of money that you'll be earning per month and per year. So very importantly, that this will speak to your happy or dissatisfied customers. And then also, let's look at the satisfiers, the motivators. You will see the list once again. I'm just going to touch on the most important components, such as achievement. When you are a customer and you make use of a certain product or a service, and it actually relieves your problem, or it actually makes your life easier, then you will definitely come back for more. But also, I want to draw your attention to the opportunities for advancement, but also the opportunities for growth. Very important that you need to keep your customers happy. As the customer continues to come back for more and more of the same product and service, you always, as a marketing specialist, need to keep your eye on what is the next best thing. Maybe give them a loyalty card, maybe give them discount. That will reinforce their purchase behavior to come back for more and more of the same components. Now, let's look at the benefits of a satisfied customer, or just taking customer satisfaction into account. So when you think about it, you think about happy and sad customers. But when you keep your customers happy, or to some extent happy, you will definitely be saving on the costs. Meaning, very few customers will come back saying they haven't had a pleasant experience. They would like a refund on their so-called experience at Ratanga Junction when it was open. Or you could just look at the lower acquisition cost. Now, what does this mean? This is the cost of acquiring new customers. You can acquire customers through online platforms such as your website. You can advertise on Facebook, on YouTube. All of these so-called adverts will cost you money. How you will get to that advert is up to you, but the platform that you use will definitely be up to the customer. For example, we all know when you're listening to your favorite Justin Bieber music video on YouTube and you need to wait that 5 seconds for the Coca-Cola advert to stop, you will definitely wish those 5 seconds away. However, that is the target audience that's listening to Justin Bieber, and that is the platform that they are accessing. That is the best platform for you as a customer and potential service provider to advertise for them. So very, very important that you need to think about all of these benefits as a whole, and that customer satisfaction will provide more benefits to your company than if you would ever neglect customer satisfaction. Now let's look at the concept of exchange. A very important thing that you need to know and understand, that exchange can only take place when there's two people involved. Meaning you can't be single and be part of this process. It needs to be two or more people. So to your left hand side you will see a small figure called the seller, and to your right hand side the buyer. And in the middle you will have the money. Very, very important. The young money, the cash money, must change from the buyer to the seller and vice versa. So the seller must have something that is of value to the buyer, something that the buyer needs or wants, and in exchange they are willing to separate their so-called money from their pocket to the seller in exchange for a car in this case. Very important. You need to know that clear communication within this process is vital. The buyer must at all times know and understand what he or she is buying, and the seller must clearly communicate what is the amount of money they would like in exchange for their so-called car in this scenario. Very important. We'll now unpack the so-called prerequisites and factors and components that we need to have in place for the concept of exchange to take place in an effective and efficient manner. So the 5 conditions for exchange, as I briefly mentioned, at least 2 people. Who are these so-called 2 parties? They will be the buyer and the seller. Then we discussed they need to have something of value, meaning in this case we had a car. The buyer wanted the car and is willing to pay for the car, hence both parties benefited from this exchange. But also, like I said, communication is vital. All components that's discussed within this exchange process must be easily understandable for both the buyer and the seller. But also, it's very important throughout this process that the buyer can always reject what is being put onto the table for him or her to purchase, or they could be able to accept this. However, you need to know that the buyer and the seller can walk away at any time during the exchange process if they feel unsafe, or if they feel that this is not a transaction or exchange that they want to be part of. Now, ladies and gentlemen, let's unpack the further so-called marketing management philosophies. And as you will see, there are really tons and tons of these philosophies that we'll be unpacking throughout this textbook. But very important, production orientation, product orientation, and sale orientation will then build to customer orientation. But we will just leave it there for now, and we'll continue with this slide in chapter number 2 for next week. But let's look at the difference between what are sales and what is the difference between sales and marketing. Now, if you think about the firm's focus, when we do sales orientation, it's inwards. However, when you market, it's going to be outwards and vice versa. So let's look at the next column. What business are you in? In the sales orientation column, you will see I mention selling goods and services. Very importantly, your main priority is there to sell a specific goal or a specific service or a specific product to your end customer. In the case of marketing orientation, your main focus of your business will be to satisfy the customer's needs and wants. Now, for you to understand this, you clearly need to have a clear picture of what is the difference between a need and a want. If you don't know, I strongly advise you to go and read chapter number 1 again, because there's a huge difference between something that you need and something that you want as a customer. But the most important thing that you need to think when we speak about the two terms sales and marketing, you need to think about the sales orientation. The primary goal will be is to maximize the amount of sales per day, per year, or per week. Very, very important. You're pushing the numbers. You're not really caring about the quality. You're focusing more about the quantity of sales being done. And when we look at the marketing orientation, your primary goal is for your customer to be satisfied at all times, meaning you are going the extra mile for your customer. You are there to provide them with necessary assistance and guidance if they have a question, and being available to assist your customers. Very, very important. However, I do want to caution you when you communicate within the marketing environment. Your communication must be specific and it must complement the firm's vision and mission. What does the company stands for? What are their so-called ethical values? So when you communicate to the audience outside your business, it must be reflecting what your company is standing for. What are their so-called customers' philosophy and how do they treat their customers? So very important that your marketing communication needs to be in line with a company or organization in itself. So when we do implement the concept of marketing within existing business, so when you graduate from UWC, more than 85% of you will go into the job environment where you will work as an intern or maybe as a marketing specialist in the near future. But this is very practical. How can you take the concept of marketing and put it into the real world experience? So when we look at the firm and the business that they identify themselves in, you need to know how can you bring something new to the table. The importance of new opportunities is vital. As a marketing specialist, you need to think outside the box. Maybe a new social media platform you can speak about. You can be the guru for this company regarding new opportunities. Maybe it could be a website that's more interactive online with its customers, where you have a digital picture of the CEO of a company greeting every member as they log into the social media platform. There's a lot of new innovation and creative thinking that we need to think about when you accept the term marketing and you put it into a real life case study. But you always need to think about what is your competitive advantage within the firm. How are you going to be the X factor from your competitor? What's going to make you unique as an organization? And like I've mentioned previously, we'll discuss this throughout the textbook, as chapter number 1 is just a brief overview of this whole textbook. So let's look at the next slide, where we speak about changes in authority and responsibility. So you need to require some major reform. What do I mean with this? As an employee in the near future, you need to think about how do you fit into the bigger so-called picture of things. So let's look at it. Non-marketing employees may lose authority. We'll also be looking at participating in the planning process. So when we do start with the term marketing and we start to implement it in the world that we live in, it becomes more challenging. So you need to think really quick in some cases, but it's also in hindsight better to do some decision making in a slower, more rational way of reasoning. But ladies and gentlemen, we need to move on to the most important slide of this whole presentation. what is the importance of new opportunity? You will see at the bottom of a PowerPoint slide, there are various social media platforms in the left-hand side image. You will see Facebook, you will see Twitter, you will see Wi-Fi symbol, you will see Pinterest, YouTube, Instagram, the Book of Many Faces, LinkedIn, all of those wonderful social media platforms that we all know and love. But these will be the opportunities for your business if you're going to start a business or if you're going to just slot into existing business. You need to think about what business are we in. Are we providing a product or a service, or is it a combination of both? But you need to be creative and you need to think about your customers and what social media platforms they are using at the moment. But when we do the so-called opportunities of a business, you need to know how you're going to compete with your customers and what will make you unique. So the opportunities are daily. It's every day there will be a new opportunity where you could do something different from your competitor. However, if you do miss the window of opportunity, it could be a window that's only open for a few hours out of a year. It could be a window that's only going to be open for once in a decade, or it could be a window that's open daily. However, you need to tap into these so-called windows of opportunities and then capitalize on it by doing something new and something that's unique. So the firm's business. If we define a business, you can involve the four major questions: the what, to meet what, to whom, and to where. These will be your strategic four questions when you ask what are the firm doing and how are they doing this. So let's take the first question, what? What product is this? Is this a service product or is it a tangible product? You need to clearly define what is the product itself. Once you have done that, we can move on to the second question, to meet what? This is the customer's need. Now, a need is something that they can't live without. This is water, electricity. In the case of a student, it could even be airtime and data. So you need to clearly identify what do the customer need and what are they willing to pay. Now, for whom? Now, this becomes a bit more tricky in the case of a university student, because what customer are we as university catering for? And the simple answer is every customer that's willing to study at UWC. So the customer type could be male, female, it could be somebody that comes from a very privileged background that has a lot of money. It could be even the opposite end of the scale. It could be a customer that comes from a certain rural community that doesn't have a lot of money and that doesn't even stay on campus. So our customer type is really broad and it's diverse for the University of the Western Cape. But where? If you think about where geographically this is going to take place, you will only find one UWC in South Africa, and that will be in the Western Cape in the Bellville community. So geographically, we will cater to the people around us as university, meaning we won't charge you for a BCom degree 100,000 per year just for tuition fees, but we will make it a little bit more affordable. Why? Because the geographical area indicates that the customer around the UWC community are currently not all millionaires or billionaires. However, that could change in the near future, 5-10 years from now, as we educate the people in our community. So let's answer certain questions. How can we keep the firm's focus towards the customer needs? That's the very first thing that I would like to draw your attention. When you think about the previous slide of a what, to whom, for whom, and where, those four questions, it's very important that it keeps the focus on the customer's needs. Like I said, a need is something that the customer cannot live without. They are willing to pay for it, irrespective if they really have the money or not. But it's also important that these four questions bring some form of X factor. This is your innovation and creativity that comes along with it. meaning you can think outside the box to answer these questions. And when you have an answer, you have a so-called roadmap, a guidance system on what to do and how to do this. So when we look at USP, you think about unique selling points. Now, very important, ladies and gentlemen, when we think about this, you need to think about it as a collective. USP stands for unique selling proposition, and we will unpack this in due course. So let's get cracking. So if we look at the strategies to establish and maintain a competitive advantage, I've listed a ton of competitive advantages. So you think about the cost. The very first thing that pops to mind when I say cost and I say retail, you think ShopRite Checkers. Why? Because they have products that they are selling, which is of a certain quality and that is really good value for money. But when I tell you I shop at Woolworths and I only buy my meat products there, the first thing that you'll be thinking about, the quality of a product at Woolworths is of a certain world-class standard. However, in South Africa, we have certain cases where the food products being sold at Woolworths is not really up to the quality, but that's an isolated case. But let's look at the location, ladies and gentlemen. Whenever you open a business, the most important factor will be location, location, location. And in this case, I've made use of the example of the Spaza shops. It's convenient, it's at the corner of your residence, it's on your way home, you quickly shop there, and it's not really expensive, but it's convenient. And then also when we think about safety and we speak about the car industry, the first company that pops into your mind will be Mercedes-Benz, meaning you could drive 200 kilometers per hour in a Mercedes. Even if you have a crash, you'll be alive and kicking when you leave the crash. Meaning all of these factors, what I've mentioned in the list below, you can unpack for yourself, but due to time constraints, we can't go into every single one of them, hence I only touched on a few. So the marketing process consists out of various phases, various steps, but the most important thing that you need to know and understand is the marketing of a business. What is the mission? What is the role of a marketing as such? Then also identify marketing objectives. And this is where something new comes in, which you learned in your first year, but we'll go into detail, is the SWOT analysis, the strengths, the weaknesses, the opportunities and the threats, how to interpret the information and to make sense of the information that is being analyzed. And then we'll be developing a marketing strategy based on the SWOT analysis and the mission and the objectives of a business in itself. And then we'll move on to the so-called marketing strategy that's being implemented, taking the so-called planning and put it into practice and to see if our plan will actually work. And then during this implementation process, we'll evaluate, we will measure the performance and have certain methods, certain tools in place to assess the type of work being done and see how accurate and how trustworthy has a plan actually been. And then last but not least, we'll evaluate the marketing efforts and see did we meet the end goal and objective. When we look at the marketing concepts, we look at different spheres of marketing. In the very bottom end of a PowerPoint slide, you will see the marketing strategy. Then to the top hand side, you will see the marketing plan, and at the very top, you will see the marketing program. Very important when we do speak about marketing, it always becomes a strategy. The strategy, as I mentioned in the previous slides, speaks to the plan, and then as the plan is being implemented, it becomes a program, it becomes a way of life. So when we look at the position and the role of marketing within a firm, you will definitely recall this from your first year. It speaks to planning, organizing, leading, and control. What does this mean? When we do planning, planning becomes very time consuming. It's something that you need to invest a lot of effort and a lot of time in to do it properly the first time. So you identify the opportunities, you set the marketing objectives, and you use the marketing instruments as such to guide you. When you organize, you get the necessary resources, which could be finance, which could be human resources, to make this plan a reality. Leading is where we actually start to make this plan come to life, where we have necessary people implementing this, where we have necessary measures in place to make sure that the outcome is in line with the objectives, and then we'll be discussing control as well in the near future in detail. So ladies and gentlemen, let's move on to the next slide. Criticism of marketing. Now, in the PowerPoint slide in front of you, you will see there's a whole list of criticism regarding marketing. Now, I'm not going to discuss everything in detail, but I would just like to mention a few key criticisms that you will identify in the near future. There's a discrepancy of quantity, and there's also discrepancy of assortment. Within marketing, people say, you do marketing, there will always be work. There will always be something that needs to be sold to the people. However, when we speak about the quantity, meaning how much needs to be sold per day, what is the target for the week, it will vary from every single business in every single different industry. Meaning a big corporate company can sell 5,000 units per hour, where a smaller startup business could only sell 2 items per hour. Meaning the quantity in marketing is also unique to every single business. And then assortments, the variety, what can we do to make us more competitive? A lot of people say, yeah, but all the marketing so-called methods and strategies are the same. There's not a lot of new ways to market your product. And I do believe this is a big mistake, because there's a lot of social media platforms, there's websites, all of these different tools that we can use to make ourselves unique and to make sure that we get to the end of the day to our customers in a more effective and efficient manner. But ladies and gentlemen, I want to end off my slide with a question: why to study marketing? And this is very important. Career opportunities in marketing is never ending. If you apply for 10 years from now for a job, you will definitely see adverts for marketing positions. So definitely, why you're studying marketing is hopefully to find a job and to have a sustainable income. And I can truly give you my expert opinion that there will always be work for marketing and marketing specialists. Also, you influence your everyday life cycle, meaning when you do marketing and you do it effectively, you impact the people around you and the way that they shop on a daily basis, and also how they spend their money and on what. So very important, ladies and gentlemen, that when you do come in contact with marketing within your career, you need to think about what is the importance that my company has on society. For example, if you're working for a cigarette company, then if you're not a smoker, your opinion will be, my company is killing the people and the environment around itself. However, if you are a smoker, then your opinion could be, my company is providing pleasure in the form of a cigarette that the customer could be smoking. So it's just a way that you reason on why you're studying marketing, what are the upsides and what are the pitfalls of this industry. Ladies and gentlemen, if you have any questions, please feel free to email me. My contact details are on the module guide, and I'm looking forward to seeing